Yeah. Bad news is, with nobody watching, we don't know if
we're being heard
with the audio. I mean, I can see like a little audio thing there that does stuff. So that's the hope.
Okay.
Well, right now nobody's watching this killer feed of ours. Oh, someone's joined us.
Hey, that's nice. Hello.
Oh,
Can you tell us if you can hear us?
Can you hear us? This is the most important part of the thing, is knowing if we can be heard. And he's not responding. We're really relying on this one person. But otherwise, let's just start chatting about other things.
All right. Well, I want
people to join us.
There's nobody here, but it's worth mentioning. William Russell just died, which I suspect means nothing to you.
No, it doesn't.
He was one of the original Doctor Who companions in the very first series. He played Ian Chesterton. He was a few months away from his 100th birthday, and he came back for the final Jodie Whittaker episode. So he holds, I think, not just a record for Doctor Who, but I think a record for television everywhere of the longest gap between appearances in the same series, because he left the show in 66 and returned in 2022, it would be.
Blimey.
So an extraordinary gap, and apparently a really lovely man. So,
people joining us.
Sorry to see him
So
go.
if anyone can confirm that the volume is at an acceptable level,
or that you can hear us. Can you hear us?
That's the main thing. Have you been watching the new Doctor Who?
I have.
And your thoughts?
I'm quite disappointed. I was really looking forward to it. And I thought that the standalone specials were very good. And these, at best, every single episode has third act problems, I think.
Okay.
And some of them have been weak overall, but they all have endings.
How have you found the shift to having Disney money?
Well, I don't really care or notice. I mean, sometimes in the opening episode, which, by the way, was, I don't know why they opened with that. That was terrible.
Yeah.
That one did look like, we have to spend the money, let's just piss it up the wall.
Right.
So they started out just by, I guess the first thing, if you had a time machine, you probably would go back and see dinosaurs first. But it's not like they spend long enough there. They just go see dinosaurs and then they go somewhere else.
I wonder.
So it's just there to blow the budget.
I wonder if it's a bit like there's some of these reports of these people given loads of money to make a Netflix show, and then they just funnel it all out the back door and just go, there you go.
I wish they.
There's your show.
I think on current evidence, it seems like having all the money in the world is destroying creativity, because that's all they're concerned about, is using all the money in the world rather than telling.
Yeah, they've got to justify what they're spending their money on.
Yeah, it's very disappointing.
Would we be reviewing any of Bowles
films? I mean, we haven't done. It's not an impossibility. It's maybe. There's probably some that fall within our remit.
Yeah. So possibly. Yes, some other little comments on Doctor Who. So sorting his personality. Yeah, I liked the casting of him. But yeah, a bit disappointing that it's not.
Yeah. This is the thing, that Ncuti Gatwa's really good, but in the last 2 episodes, he's had very little to do.
How weird.
Well, the one that was sort of specifically without the Doctor, except just at the start, that was, I mean, it started so well, and you were and then I've seldom been so angry with just how an ending was thrown away, and there's just it makes absolutely no sense. It really did anger me, because it set up for something.
Yeah.
For something else. There was also a great scene in that where wonderful old actress, Sian, I always forget her surname. Oh, Sian Phillips, who played Livia in I, Claudius. She had a wonderful bit to camera, setting up this story, and then she just breaks and laughs and, oh, you gullible person, right. It's all just a joke. And I thought, that story, that's the one that we all were hoping for, and then you've written this bollocks that would have been fine if it had paid off, but it didn't.
Okay.
Angering.
Our next question.
Yeah, let's get it away
from
one
that. This is one that's near and dear to our hearts, I think. What are your thoughts on Paul Naschy?
We love Paul Naschy. He's doing great things for us.
Yeah.
We've got a Paul Naschy. We're recording a Paul Naschy review tomorrow. Although not one of the ones in which he stars. He's got a sort of a smaller bit part because he was busy at the time.
He still manages to bed an actress many years his junior.
Does he?
Well, certainly does something.
Yes. But yeah, he's someone who, as I understand, didn't have the happiest of lives and didn't really achieve everything that he wanted to do and sort of got stuck in this. So it's kind of a sad story.
Yeah, I think we want to...
He's got a lot of charisma and a great... I mean, this is the thing. We're doing this film called The Hanged Woman. He's not in it for very much, but he steals it in a way. He's easily the most memorable thing in it, and not just because he's playing a necrophiliac gravedigger, although that helps.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to do like a profile on him at some point.
Yeah.
So that's definitely something that's on the cards. What are your... we've done Hammer, we've done Corman, we've done Universal. What studio is next? Thing is, we haven't done all of Hammer.
No.
And we may have done a good chunk of Universal.
We're going back to the start again.
So we're going back to the start again. So
we joke, but we are actually going, because we were still learning to do the specials when we did our Frankenstein one. It's not really up to the standard that we would expect today. So we are going back to do the Universal Frankenstein again.
Yeah.
But we won't make a habit of redoing ones. I think we'll leave the Mummy as just it is what it is, because the films don't really.
Yeah, and I think we did the Invisible Man fine. We did the
Wolfman the others I think are well done.
So and then you're not that keen on doing Creature from the Black Lagoon.
I'm not saying no.
I'm not saying no, but it's not in a priority.
No.
Hammer wise, I mean, we're talking about whether we do like the Cornish duo of
Plague
the
of the Zombies
Reptile and Plague of the Zombies, doing the Swashbucklers.
Yes,
it's kind of an interesting one. There's the Karnstein trilogy, which we've talked about doing. You could just get into their sort of dark dramas.
That would be
like,
interesting.
Like The Nanny and
Never Takes Weeks from a Stranger is an interesting one.
The Fear one that Christopher Lee likes.
Is it Fear in the Night?
Fear in the Night. Yeah. So there's a whole bunch there that could be worth doing. If you like Corman, then obviously go check out our Patreon series.
Yes, this is the first live stream we've done since Roger Corman left us.
Yes. So
I was chatting to a friend earlier today, and she didn't know who Roger Corman was, as a lot of people who aren't that interested in film don't. But as I was sort of like telling her about it, she became more interested, because when you start sort of like quoting the statistics of this guy, it's extraordinary what he did, and there's just no one to compare him to.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think we're going to do anything more on Corman.
So yeah, I mean,
I am. I've got another half year to go.
Yeah, but there's not going to be another big one. But another studio to tackle is interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I wonder if it's worth doing one, maybe not just on one studio, but doing like a Rivals of Hammer. So Amicus and Tygon and Tyburn would be the big three. And so you could sort of like pick, so maybe top 10 Hammer rivals, and pick from amongst those. You find an interesting selection.
Do you just end up with Witchfinder General at the top again, though?
Yeah, you probably do if you're honest about it. Then yeah. But when were we last honest in the top 10? Usually cheat these things anyway. So the thing is, if you do top 10 of each of them, or even if you do specials about each of those, I think they're a bit thin. Amicus comes closest, but even then, it's sort of like the anthologies, and they get a couple of good standalone films, but a lot of the rest is not so much.
Okay, we've built up questions now.
Right, let's answer some questions as quickly as possible.
Okay, right. We did that one. Thoughts on Late Night with the Devil? You haven't seen it, have you?
No.
I saw it. I was enjoying it. I didn't like the ad breaks where they sort of switched to another camera that was just picking up all of the plot points. It didn't feel like it was... The rest of the show felt very grounded in, we're filming a show, and then you'd have the intermissions, and then there'll be like a documentary camera there that really didn't work as a documentary camera. And then the ending, as so many of these things do, go over the top. And so the tension that had been built up in it, I felt, was kind of lost because they went so big at the end. But as the concept of it, I really enjoyed. So that was my thoughts on Late Night with the Devil. This person said it was lousy. I wouldn't say it was lousy, but it was definitely disappointment for me. What are your thoughts on Paul Naschy? We've done that one. I enjoy Werewolf Shadow starring Paul Naschy. We've not done that
I
one.
think we've done that one. We haven't done all of his werewolf films. He did do an awful lot.
Yes.
But we're working our way through.
I think Paul Naschy should have married Barbara Steele. So we talked about doing like a Barbara Steele top 10 at some point.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll do that.
That's on the cards. We've done like a fair few of hers recently. She's
we
popped up
have done a
in the
couple.
streamings.
Yeah.
Did you like Dracula 3D by Argento?
No.
Have you seen my favorite Paul Naschy film, The Beast and the Magic Sword?
No.
Again,
we'll get to it, I'm sure.
Oh no, Dark Corners joins the remake train from redoing Frankenstein.
Right. Yeah, sorry.
Will
our remake be better than the original?
The Cornish Jeweler sounds like a good sandwich shop. The heist film Cash on Demand. Yeah, we've is a
we have reviewed
underrated
that for,
one. We've reviewed that for streaming.
It's a good film.
Will you review Guardian, directed by William Friedkin? I don't know The Guardian.
No.
William Friedkin would be a good one to look at because he's got a nice
career
of stuff.
It's more mainstream than we tend to go, but yeah, I love is it Sorcerer?
Yeah.
I've never seen the original Wages of Fear. Is it the Clouseau one?
I don't know.
That one. Yeah, I'd like to see that as well.
I've seen him. I saw him live a couple of times. I saw him do an intro to Killer Joe, and I saw him do an intro to Live and Die in LA.
Right.
And he's such a great speaker.
He's really passionate.
He's someone who's so passionate about film. And the great thing, so this was at the BFI, and they're doing like the Q&A, and the guy goes, well, we're gonna have to wrap this Q&A up, and he's like, well, I'm happy to stay. If you want to stay, you can stay, but London's got night buses, doesn't it? He would have stayed all night. And then even after it had finished, he was out there signing autographs and stuff.
That's nice to see.
And I hadn't bought anything along for him to sign. But John Landis, who is another director who really speaks passionately about film, he has signed my Blues Brothers poster. It says, Graham will never get caught, and he's on a mission from God. So, yeah, that's cool. Toho, yeah, there's another studio.
Yeah, that's true. God knows where we'd start with that.
Yeah.
I'm less passionate about Toho, I have to say.
A Mario Bava special.
I'd have to learn a lot more about Mario Bava.
Thoughts on the Phantasm franchise? I think first one's good. It goes rapidly downhill.
I think that's our stock answer to franchise questions.
After your review of The Skyscraper, I'm wondering if you would consider any more PM Entertainment films, although horror is, of course, the main trend. Yes, but it's not going to be super frequent. No. I guess I like doing these action films. So like
this was
USA,
a fun one, I suppose. Yeah, they're very variable in how they do in terms of views. I think they need some sort of like selling point.
Yeah.
But yeah, if there's fun ones with them, if we can find the humor.
Which of the Universal monster movies are your favorites?
Bride of Frankenstein.
Bride of Frankenstein. Yeah. Is it Ghost of Frankenstein with Bela Igor?
Son of Frankenstein.
Son of Frankenstein.
He's in both, but Son of Frankenstein's the really good one. The Black Cat is another favorite of mine. I think that's such a fabulous film.
The Old Dark House.
Yeah, that's very good.
All
of the James Whale ones. Absolutely
Man.
Stunning.
The Wolfman, the first one, still the best of those.
You mean the Chaney one?
Yeah.
Because there's Werewolf of London.
Yes.
Well.
Yeah. Daughter of Dracula, just not quite all it could have been.
No.
But definitely interesting and better than Son of Dracula.
Yeah, definitely.
So there you go. It's a few to get on with. Dark Corners, horror made horrible. Could be our new tagline. Don't know if I'm of a violent nature yet, but have you seen 80 slasher movie a bit focused on? Sorry. If I'm in a violent nature, is No, A Violent Nature. Sorry, I was trying to go. Do you have a Violent Nature? The film A Violent Nature.
Disturbing message we're getting.
I've not heard of it, so it hasn't made it my way yet, and that's not your kind of film.
Not really.
I saw Abigail, and I did enjoy that. That was like a nice gory horror. Again, not perfect, but was doing the good horror things. What's your opinion of Terror of the Woods?
Doesn't ring a bell.
Okay. Carry On Screaming scared me too. We consider doing anything on Nigel Kneale. Just saw Stone Tap on Shudder.
Nigel Kneale.
Sorry.
I don't know. We've never done a special about a writer. I mean, we're planning to do a Quatermass special at some point. We were always waiting on the proposed remake, but I think we may as well go ahead. And that will be so. I think it's probable that we'll try and tie Nigel Kneale into that. So we might do something about Quatermass and include a lot about Nigel Kneale in it, because of course he's the constant through all the iterations.
Yeah,
to some degree, it's his character. I mean, so
it was interesting you were saying about who directed the Cornish duo.
John Gilling. Well, no, yes. Sorry,
but then he also did those quite a few of those swashbucklers as well, or at least a couple of them. Yeah, that is. Yes, but it's the first time he's popped up in our Hammer films, isn't it? I think. Did he do any of the Franks?
So. He didn't do any. No, those are almost all Terence Fisher. No.
So yeah, so kind of the first time he sort of popped up. But when I was listening to the commentary on the Reptile, I think it was, and it turns out that he wrote for Todd Slaughter.
Wow.
That Todd Slaughter's.
There's another special we wanted to do.
I forget which one it was. It was Todd Slaughter's version of Burke and Hare.
Oh right.
So Todd Slaughter's another special that we're looking at doing. I just need to pick up the discs for that.
He also did John Gilling. He directed a James Bond spoof with Michael Ripper as the bad guy.
Wow.
As the villain. Apparently it's not so good though.
Yes.
But it's probably worth looking out. Just Michael Ripper as a Bond villain.
You talk about how Gilling just does not have a good working relationship with anybody, and everything that I've read that pops up.
Yeah.
That he is just not a good guy to work with.
It was one of those things where I thought I read it somewhere and thought, I want to check. I don't want to say anything bad about the guy, and then you find everybody say, "God, he was an arse."
Yeah,
it's just it's like, really difficult to work with.
It was in like all the documentaries because I got the discs for the Reptile and Pegasus, but as soon as he came out, he was. And sometimes it's very diplomatically put, but it's very clear that he was an arse of a man to work with. Did we get to see Naschy's Mummy Revenge?
No.
I've definitely got.
Have we?
It's on one of the
box
right. Sets, I
yes.
think. So, so we will probably get around to that. If we're considering Toho, we should also consider Dai.
Yeah. Dai.
Cool.
I think it's pronounced.
No,
I'm not sure.
Evil Twin Trap. I looked. That was something I was working on ages ago and just fell by the wayside. Was like the Evil Twins.
Yeah.
Because there was a fair few films like that. So maybe I dig that out at some point to have another crack at it. Mummy's underrated. Did you hear about the making of the horror version of Bambi? I think we talked.
Yeah.
Did we talk about this when we were talking about upcoming films?
Yes, I think
any film that falls, any IP that falls out of copyright is instantly just go. We'll just turn it into a slasher film.
Now thinking about it, I'm not sure we did. We talked about Mickey Mouse.
Yeah, we talked.
I'm not sure we did talk about Bambi.
I think it was. Oh no, yeah, maybe because we were talking about the.
There's the sequel to Blood and Honey coming out this year.
Mickey Mouse. But I was aware of the Bambi one as well.
Yeah, I just don't think we talked about it.
The best Universal monster is obviously Chucky. I did see a video where somebody was also claiming that Jaws is a Universal monster, and Norman Bates. So it's like, where do you draw that line?
Yeah.
And you've drawn it right before Creature of the Black Lagoon.
I well, for the purposes of my books, it's what fits into my world. I don't think that, you know, there's something that Universal horror is that is distinct from horror films made by Universal. I think everybody knows that, and people pointing it out are just being deliberately obtuse.
Thoughts on The Wicker Man with Christopher Lee?
That's a brilliant film.
Yes, I think probably the main reason we won't do something about it is it seems that Studio Kneale, who may own the rights, are very copyright strike happy on that particular film from other clips that we've used on it before.
There's very good documentary about it already, so I don't think that we can add a great deal to that anyway.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
My daughter just discovered blaxploitation. Did you review any? We've done a few. So
we did a few. They don't do very well.
The Zombies of Sugar Hill is a good.
Yeah.
Then you've got Black Killer Scream, Blackenstein.
Well, we haven't done those.
We haven't done Blackenstein or Scream Black Scream.
We did. What did we do recently? The Express, Devil's Express. Does that count as blaxploitation?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah,
in the same way that.
And we've reviewed Coffee for streaming.
Yes.
I saw its companion. I recently went to the Forbidden Worlds Film Festival just to name check them. They're lovely people, and they were screening the other Pam Grier, George Hill one.
The one that's
which I'm suddenly blanking on the name of.
We did Lovely but Deadly, and then there's the Pam Grier version of that.
Is that what it is? Is that what it is?
I don't know if that's the right film, but there is like a blaxploitation, like basically the same film, but
completely
with Pam
blanking
Grier.
on the name. This is the problem with live streaming. My poor memory is exposed. No, I'm not going to remember. But yeah, that was good.
Other blaxploitations, if you want classics,
we've done.
Just in general. Shaft.
Yeah.
Superfly. There's a
bunch of them.
Yeah. So there's loads out there. It's probably not fully in our remit to discuss the topic. But on Shudder, there's Horror Noir.
Horror Noir is a very good
which
film.
is a really good documentary about black horror. That's well worth watching.
Yeah.
Terror in the Woods. Somebody's
isn't that the like prototype for Evil Dead? Terror in the Woods.
I could be. We'll find out. Someone will tell us. Thank you very much, FJ.
Thank you, FJ.
Very generous donation.
Thank you.
What film would you like to see restored to its former glory? A couple of the films we're just reviewing, quite frankly, because the copies we've got are ropey.
The Burning Earth, which is a silent film by F.W. Murnau. It's the one that he made, I think, straight after Nosferatu, and as far as I'm aware, it's never had a proper restoration. You'd think a film by that director would have, but I certainly can't find it. There may be one in Germany.
Otherwise, what would be another good
candidate?
I quite enjoyed that they put together Richard Donner's cut of Superman 2. Oh. And they really went, they poured and so when Richard Donner left, so Richard Donner was filming Superman 1, Superman 2 at the same time, the budget was getting out of control, so they went, forget it, let's just finish the first one, take the ending from Superman 2, put it on the end of Superman 1, and we'll worry about Superman 2 later. But he'd shot about 70% of Superman 2 at that point.
Right.
So then he leaves, Richard Lester comes in, and I think because of wanting proper credit, he threw out about 90% of the film and reshot it. So they went in, they pulled all of the Richard Lester stuff out. Where they had to, they used scenes from Richard Lester's version. And one particular scene was the audition piece for Christopher Reeves,
yes,
playing the role, and it's the sort of discovery of Superman, of how Lois Lane finds out he's Superman. So in Richard Lester's version, he trips and he drops his glasses into the fire and he takes them out. And that's how she goes, oh my God, you're Superman. In the original version, she shoots him. And it's this great bit where she shoots him and he's Clark Kent. She shoots him and obviously he doesn't die and he straightens up and just in that one movement, he becomes Superman.
Yeah.
And he's like, if you had been wrong, you would have killed Clark Kent. And she goes, with blanks. And it's like, it's such a good scene. And
you see it online a lot.
It's so weird that they went a different way with it, but so lucky that we have that scene.
Yeah.
Because, like, obviously, Richard Donner thought that was important enough to use as the audition piece for these two actors.
Yeah.
And so for that to get cut is so. Yeah, I know that wasn't the answer to your question at all. Just like a side
on your mind
of some interesting, restorations. Nigel Kneale also wrote Halloween 3: Season of the Witch, which we've got a
we're reviewing
review
that,
sort of coming up either this week or next week. Probably, I don't know. Either this week or next week. Depends on which order I do them in. Andy Warhol's Frankenstein. We have reviewed
that. We've not reviewed his Dracula because that holds up a lot better than his Frankenstein.
Funny enough, Black Moon with Fay Ray. We've also done a review of that. So that is coming up in the not too distant future. Nice little remembrance video on Roger Corman that you did. Thank you very much. Somebody did point out in the thing, because I woke up a Patreon, actually. It was from a Patreon message that I learned that he died, because I did not see it as a headline news on BBC, which I thought was insane.
Yeah. They haven't announced that William Russell's died yet either, and he's one of their stars.
But then I was out for the day, and then you wrote and shot something at home.
Yeah. And
then I came home and I edited it. But in order to get it done quickly, to get it out, I just took our Roger Corman documentary and culled it. And I thought, Roger Corman would appreciate this. I've just taken clips from a previous video to make his tribute video.
The speed with which we did it, he would have appreciated it. And he said, yeah, you did well.
You did well.
I'm sure.
So, big love, because you're quite right in the thing. It was like, there was no sign that of him really slowing down. He was still working.
He's got 2 films out this year.
Still giving interviews. It felt like a no-brainer that he was going to hit 100.
Yeah.
In some ways, all the time when we were writing the Corman specials, we were kind of like, oh, I hope we get this done before he dies.
Yeah.
Well, and then we got it done and went, oh, we had nothing to worry about.
Yeah. Seeing fine. There was a lot of people posting that they'd seen him. He did some live event, I think last Halloween, and obviously he's frail because he was 96, but still he looked in pretty fine form, and still absolutely with it, very sharp, and able to answer the questions and remember all the stuff. I mean, one thing you find, because obviously I've looked at a lot of interviews that Corman has done, his memory of the specific events, and fair enough, he may be remembering his own story now, but it never changes. He always remembers it exactly the same way each time when he's talking about the same films over a period of decades.
Yeah.
And
to do so many films, like I can't imagine all of them stick.
Let's be honest, people are mostly asking him about the Poe ones. No one's asking about
some of the early ones.
Box.
But did you hear that there's a documentary about Christopher Lee coming out sometime later this year? Yes, I did. I believe, at least for us in the UK, that Sky has got a distribution thing for it. Right. So yes, we'll keep an eye out for that. Hello guys. Hello Ravenhouse Mystery. Favorite Val Guest Hammer film?
Val Guest Hammer film. Ooh. I'm trying to think of the title now. I may be stuck.
All right, think on. Favorite film about film? Quite partial to Ed Wood.
Yeah, that's always good. That's a good film.
That's a
Film
good
about
one.
fun.
American Movie, is it? It's like the documentary about the guy making the movie. That's quite interesting. Some of those documentary films. Lost in La Mancha.
That's very there's some good documentaries.
Is a
I
good
was just
one.
saying, I was hoping to see Made in England about Powell and Pressburger that came out recently, and I've missed that now. Trying to think if there's a film sort of like behind the players on it, very good. The Robert Altman one, that's a very good film.
I've not watched that in a while.
No.
Maybe that's
Day
something
for
that
Night.
need to revisit.
Maybe Day for Night, the Francois Truffaut one, that's very good.
There you go.
Yeah,
there's a couple.
I'm trying to think of older ones, but I'm struggling now. I've watched a few that have been made in the 30s just as research, but nothing that leapt out.
Great coverage of Val Luton as well. Thank you.
Sunset Boulevard.
Have you watched Godzilla -1 yet? I have.
No, but it's about to come on. Well, it's on Netflix now, so I'll be watching it probably later this week.
Yeah, and we'll get
if I've got time.
We'll get a review out of that.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed it, although I still contend did not deserve best special effects. I'm on one hand, I'm really glad that they got it, because
they should get recognition for something.
Yeah. But I thought there was probably a bunch of other Oscars it was better in line for than its effects. But I really enjoyed it. It was great seeing that in the Cinemaplex. The restored digital King Kong is still on Watch TCM. Yeah, I don't know. Because I guess what was King Kong shot on wouldn't have been like the best quality film to begin with. But is that something that warrants a 4K upscale of it, or is it just?
I don't know if it's just going to do it harm, to be honest.
In that much detail.
I think the problem is when you sort of like do that level of restoration on early stop motion, then it makes it look worse than it is.
And do they even have all the elements to do that properly? Is it just like I don't know what they've got left of.
When you have to start adding stuff, changing, digitally enhancing that much, I don't know. I think it's just such a good film. I've never watched King Kong and thought, well, this would benefit from.
But you saw it on an IMAX screen.
Yes,
last year.
Yeah.
So, and presumably it held up super nice on that.
Yeah, it was. I mean, that was amazing.
I presume, was it? Do you think it was a digital screening?
I would assume so. I don't think there's anything. It wouldn't. It definitely
you would
was a
have
digital
noticed
screening.
If there was dirt on it and stuff. Yeah. But that must have been pretty cool to see.
Yeah, this year they had Attack of the 50-Foot Woman.
When you say this year, do you want to explain a little bit more about?
Again, I did mention it, but yes, I went to Forbidden Worlds Film Festival. I am going to get a short out about 50-Foot Woman, but the preview is basically that it's the only time that film has ever impressed me, because it is one of the most monumentally disappointing films. But if you watch it on an IMAX screen and sit where you're absolutely not supposed to in an IMAX screen, like front and center, then suddenly Alison Hayes is actually towering above you and it becomes impressive. It's still terrible, but it's impressive.
It's so funny because Alison Hayes in The Undead, very sexy. Alison Hayes in Attack of the 50-Foot Woman, she just looks grumpy and...
That's carrot, that's acting.
I know, but
she is actually much better in The Undead, and I think it's so. I think it's as much as anything. I think she knew one was a good film and one wasn't, and you know, Roger Corman is a better director than I can't remember who did Attack of the 50-Foot Woman, but
and that's the lesson.
Bringing it back to Corman,
yes,
but that's a lovely film.
Do you have a favorite film directed by Lucio Fulci?
No, I just don't off the top of my head.
Speaking of blaxploitation horror, have you seen Ganja and Hash? Probably not.
No.
I'm
aware of it. If that helps.
Right. Regarding your comments you made, would you say the cutoff for Universal horror Creature from the Black Lagoon came out 29 years after Phantom of the Opera, for example?
No, I mean, I wouldn't.
That's more a joke than an actual statement. But what is the cutoff for classic Universal horror?
I think probably the last Creature from the Black Lagoon film is where I'm not sure there is a cutoff. You look at the films, and if they're of that, body. But I would say generally the third, what is it, The Creature Walks Among Us is probably where I draw a line. But to be honest, I don't think that Phantom of the Opera is universal horror. I think Dracula is ground zero for universal horror.
What about the remake of Phantom of the Opera with
Claude Rains?
Yeah. You think that?
Yeah.
See,
no one would recognize, no one at the time would have recognized the Phantom of the Opera as a universal horror.
Yes.
That starts there.
So I agree with that. My issue with the Claude Rains Phantom of the Opera is
it's not horror.
It's in color.
Oh, okay.
And that sort of stops it being in that ilk of classic.
Yeah, I know. And
it's a weird.
You're right, and it isn't horror really, but somehow it's become part of that.
Yes,
and because it's part of that.
It's included on the box set as opposed to the Lon Chaney version.
Sometimes it's our perception of these things that creates, because as this conversation is proving, there's really no such thing exactly as universal horror. There's just a perception of it, and I think the perception is Dracula to The Creature, and that includes.
But it doesn't.
Phantom of the Opera.
Does it include the Poe films that Universal did?
What, The Raven and the Black Cat?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's ever in doubt.
Yeah. Cool.
And a whole bunch of stuff that really doesn't get talked about.
Yes, Into the Woods was the Raimi demo. Which I think is on YouTube.
Yeah.
Around. Again, I think The Evil Dead is one that we'd like to do, but again, it's another one I've got a sense from what we've done in the past. It might be difficult to get it past the YouTube copyrights system. Have you reviewed Living Dead at Manchester Morgue?
No.
Hello, Colleen. The original version of Total Recall would be nice, and Cobra. Actually, on that, Schwarzenegger, I recently went to go and see Commando. It had it had a re-release, and I never watched Commando before. I mean, my friend, we went to go and see it in the super screen in London. Really enjoyed it. It's stupid, and it's also not what I thought it was. I thought it was him being like an army man the whole time, but it starts off where he's like a dad, and it's just so weird.
Yeah, I used to love it when I was a kid.
It's so weird. So
on the subject of films that you sort of like missed first time round, again at Forbidden Worlds, they were showing Long Kiss Goodbye, you know, the Gina Davis one, which I'd never seen. Everyone said, "Oh, you've got to see it," and on an IMAX screen. And Samuel L. Jackson, it's the best thing he's ever done, and I loved it. It was so much fun, and it's a Rennie Harlin film.
Yeah,
Rennie Harlin. Forbidden Worlds always have people introducing these films, usually via video, and Rennie Harlin had done an epic introduction to Cliffhanger the year before, that he was asked for basically sort of like a couple of minutes, and he talked for 15 minutes. And this year, it was about 5 minutes, and he started to wind up. And as he was talking, captions started coming up at the bottom of the screen, and it said, "We know what you're thinking. Isn't this a bit short for a Rennie Harlin introduction?" He actually talked for 20 minutes more. You can see the unedited thing on our YouTube channel.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Raven House Mystery.
Thank you.
For $10 reduce. Despite its flaws, Hawk the Slayer is still a fun film to watch, is it?
Well, I didn't enjoy it. It irritates me.
I vaguely just remember it being such a film of its type that it didn't particularly stand out in any sort of like, oh, that's what makes this film unique.
I don't think I watched it when I was a kid. If I'd seen it when I was a kid, then I probably still have affection for it now, and I didn't, so I don't. And all I can see is a film that just irritates me because I think the hero's a prick.
Yeah. Okay, Mackenzie Lamb. There might be more to the last name. It says ... But thank you again very much for your $10 reduce. I enjoyed the review of Torture Garden. I have a soft spot for Amicus anthologies. Do you have a favorite entry story in any anthology film? For me, it's Mr. Tiger in Tiles. For me, it's Mr. Tiger in Tales, that witness madness. That was a tongue twister for me.
Favorite framing story. That's a really specific question. See, when I think about anthologies, then I go to Quatermass, but it doesn't have a framing story.
That's true. Yeah, some of them just don't.
Yeah.
I'm kind of, I have like a soft spot for Peter Cushing in The Uncanny, just being like freaked out by cats. And that the whole framing story is Peter Cushing trying to convince somebody that cats are evil.
Go with that.
What other framing stories are there?
There's the sort of Dr. Shrek one in the first Amicus anthology, the Dr. Terror's House of Horrors, which is the House of Cards.
Not an Amicus one, but actually Creepshow, I think, works really well.
Okay.
The framing story for that, which is, he's got the comic book and sort of like the relationship between him, the kid, and his dad. There we are. I'm going with that. I
like the idea of the really pretty poor Lon Chaney Jr. one we did, where he's the blue collar devil looking through his Rolodex.
Okay. I'd scroll down to get to those money ones. Asking again, as I was ignored, what's your favorite horror writer, as in novels, not scripts, if adapted? What's the best adaptation so far? So best horror writer.
Favorite horror writer? Read a huge amount of horror. I suppose Bram Stoker.
Okay. And so then your favorite adaptation
would be Nosferatu.
Yeah, there you go.
Like I say, I don't read a great deal of horror. And when I do, it tends to be classic horror. So
it's kind of like,
read most of Poe's stories.
Growing up as like in my teens, then I used to read a lot of Stephen King and Clive Barker. Clive Barker seems to have sort of vanished these days. And I wonder if some of his stuff is ripe for reimagining and getting out there. Just like maybe Stephen King had that sort of renaissance quite recently with it and some other things. So yeah, maybe there's stuff in Clive Barker. There's another generous donation here. Hi, Robin. Thank you very much. I left a review on Amazon, The Immortal Dracula.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate all the
he gave it 0 stars. A bit ago, saying it's one of the best books I'd ever read.
Yes, I remember that review.
Glad you liked the review. It was a surprise when I saw you followed him on Twitter. There you go. So write Robin a good review and he will follow you on Twitter.
Yes, I will. In fairness, that was someone who said it was one of the best books they'd ever read, which I thought has to be an exaggeration, but apparently they really enjoyed it.
Oh, it didn't say it was the best he'd ever read, one of the best.
That's still pretty high recommendation. Are you suggesting that they've only read like 5 books?
Maybe less. So that's like, because sometimes people don't know these things, but Robin is a writer. I'm going to just grab them. I'll do your dirty work for you.
Graham's going to pimp my books for me.
They're all sitting up on my shelf in pristine condition.
Yeah, this is as good as you see them, because I got Graham. I very generously gave Graham all of my books as a housewarming present. One of the more self-serving things I've ever done.
So here we go. This is the Robin's collection of books. We have The Mummy's Quest. Tell us one line about it.
One line about it?
Just like what? Pitch it in a line.
A mummy wakes up in a Cambridge museum and heads for home.
Fantastic. We have The Vengeance of the Invisible Man.
Is the Invisible Man a serial killer, or does he just want to be seen? I'm just quoting the back now.
Okay. The Wolf, the Raven, and the Black Cat.
I'm very proud of that one, and it's not selling so well. That's my Poe one.
The Immortal Dracula.
That, I think, is the best one.
Okay. The Golem of 2020.
That's the one that no one likes, apart from my friend. My friend DeLucchi thinks that's the best one, which is nice because she's a doctor, and this is based during the pandemic, and she felt that it captured what it was like for medics working then. So I'm proud of that.
That's good. That's good recommendation.
Yeah.
And The Werewolf of Priory Grange.
Yes.
Well, nothing to say about that.
That's the werewolf one. Some people have described that one as being more young adult.
Oh, there you go. And then currently you're working on
the Frankenstein one, which doesn't have a title yet. I'm toying with the legacy of Frankenstein, but it sounds, I don't know, there's something about it I don't like.
So there you go. And then also coming up, we've got another book that we're releasing.
We do. We have a Dark Corners horror film quiz book out end of this month. Very exciting.
So there you go.
Makes a great gift for the horror fan in your life or for yourself. Test yourself every morning.
500 horror questions.
Yeah. As I said, I think it's going to be on the cover and say from horror films, old and new, but mostly old.
Wasn't it going to be 666 questions?
It was going to be 1,000.
It was. I know it was going to be 1,000. I didn't want to mention that, so people now realise that we just cut the book in half.
You didn't cut the book in half.
We
didn't finish. You didn't finish writing your half. It's made it a lot easier to write, or to put together.
Yeah.
It's now. I think it's a better read now, as it were.
Cool. So yeah. So that will be coming out maybe end of.
I'm sticking with end
June.
of this month. I don't see why it shouldn't.
End of
be
June.
done.
And just like with our T-shirts, if you buy the book or you buy a T-shirt, you get an exclusive bonus review.
Yeah, and not the same one.
And not the same
so
one.
If you have a T-shirt, you've seen that bonus review. There will be another bonus review. We've not even recorded it yet for when the quiz book comes out.
And if bonus reviews is something that you like on Patreon, just join up. You get a bonus review straight away.
Yeah.
And then every year
you get a bonus review
on Patreon.
Along with much other stuff, many other things.
So many bonus reviews.
Yes.
Okay, what's next?
We've fallen a little behind in the questions.
Abby, that's another blaxploitation one, which is the Black Exorcist. Blaxorcist.
I still can't remember the name of that Pam Grier one.
Is it like no?
Let's stop.
I was going to say Sugar Hill, but I go no, it's
that's
not
another
that.
blaxploitation.
Oh yeah, we definitely did all of these. I watched Wolfman retrospective, having just finished reading your werewolf book. Suddenly, a lot more references.
yeah. The books are filled with references to the old films. Hopefully, not distractingly so. But then, if you read it through the first time and didn't notice them, then it can't have been distracting. So that's good.
Ever seen the documentary Hitchcock Truffaut?
No, I've got it I've got it on DVD. Someone gave it to me, but I've not read I sort of feel like I'd quite like to read the book first before I go and look at the sort of the making of almost.
To Matthew, yes, I'm sure we're going to get round to doing more of the anthologies.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll do all of those. I think we've only done the 3, haven't we?
We've only done 3. Oh, I guess I'm just like thinking of all the we've done a big handful of anthologies over.
I was thinking of the Amicus
time,
one specifically, but yeah, I think we've only done 3 of those.
Kind of a question, but did you guys screen Hellraiser 2022? No, I'm also like vaguely unaware that there was a Hellraiser remake in 2022.
It didn't make any impression, if there was.
I remember seeing Hellraiser when I was a kid at a house party and being quite bored by it. But I might have.
Well, if it's at a party, that's not exactly an ideal viewing condition, is it? For a film?
But I remember the girl I was with at the time. So there
you go. You wouldn't.
Your
mind was probably
there was more
elsewhere.
Interesting things going on, and if my girlfriend is listening upstairs, it was a long time ago. Have you ever had a theatre romance?
A theatre? What you mean?
So you're working on a show, and you have like kind of a romance that kind of spans the length of that show.
Oh, right, just the length of the show.
Or maybe like a little bit afterwards, but really like the show was the sort of the thing.
Not really, no. No, I don't think I could say that. There's obviously people you meet during shows who I've gone out with.
Yes.
But I don't think anything has sort of like encapsulated a show.
Yeah. No, I've had quite a few. My girlfriend was quite fascinated by that as well. This idea of because working on a show is quite an intense.
I suppose it depends on the nature.
Working really
I tend to be
working together.
I tend to do shows through groups,
right.
So it becomes you're less
likely. You're going to see him again.
Yeah. Yeah. that sort of happened, that I got together with someone at the end, towards the end of a show, and it was very short-lived. It obviously, from my perspective, it didn't really work out. And you know what? This isn't a story for now I started
but
it and thought, no.
I brought it up with my friend Ben as well. He said, yeah, of course. And my girlfriend, who's not been within the arts in any way, this was
revelation.
a big revelation that these things happened.
I wonder if in business you get like project romances in the same way you get show romances.
But office romance, I guess, is the equivalent.
Yeah, but not, but like over the course of a project.
Possibly.
Anyway, this is kind of off topic.
Yeah. Is it too far out of our wheelhouse to review the Jim Henson documentary, which has just popped onto Disney? I don't think so. I'm definitely going to be watching it, because I looked at the possibility of us doing a Jim Henson documentary. I looked at like a Dark Crystal Labyrinth thing when the new season of Dark Crystal was coming out, but that's about as far as it got.
Yeah,
but
a bit late now.
But Jim Henson is, this incredible character,
extraordinary figure. Another unique figure.
I'm also going to go like that. This documentary is probably going to be pretty goddamn definitive, and there's not really much that we can add to it. So
probably not worth doing that.
So
but
it's
we
probably
could give
worth
it a review.
reviewing the documentary, but actually us then now tackling anything Jim Henson will be right down the line. But I remember when he died in that Muppet special that they did.
That's still one of the end of that, where they find the children's letters, is something I use as a tear trigger when I'm on stage, because I find for some reason stuff like that, anything, to be honest, anything to do with Muppets crying, because I grew up with the Muppets, then it's like your friends breaking down.
But it was so because of how that episode of the Muppet Show or whatever it was, how they sort of broke stuff down, because they started acknowledging the people that go, hey, when I move this way, this guy moves. Like it wasn't that the puppeteers were controlling the Muppets, it was the Muppets were controlling the puppeteers, and like this really great way that they broke that fourth wall, while sort of keeping the Muppets real. I also think it's something I didn't think about at the time, but since I thought, wow, that's a really powerful moment. Of course, Kermit comes in at the end after the song and speaks, and I just looking back now, you think that's the first time that Kermit speaks with somebody else's voice. And I thought, what a moment that must have been for Steve Whitmire doing the voice for all of them. Yeah.
And of course, it doesn't occur to you at the time, but looking back, you think, wow, that's quite a thing.
So I'm very much looking forward to that documentary, and yes, I think we'll very likely do a review of it. Just a Labyrinth review would be nice, somebody said as well. Remember going to see that at the cinema as well.
I didn't see that at the cinema, I don't think.
Was able to catch a screening of Pit and the Pendulum for a Corman tribute. Great on the big screen. I was thinking about this again recently, so there's quite a lot of the cinemas now are showing older films. So the Cineworld in central London have just been they did like their action season, so they had like Commando and Matrix and a bunch of other sort of 80s action ones, and then they're doing their Pride one, so a bunch of sort of gay related films. Then now they're also doing like 1999 films, so they're bringing back like American Pie. But generally, these films that get re-released are ones you kind of see getting re-released a lot. So like Aliens gets re-released a fair amount, Star Wars gets re-released, Indiana Jones. But actually, the opportunity to see a Poe film on the big screen, that doesn't happen very often.
No.
And well worth. If you get the opportunity to see some of those films on the big screen, well worth doing.
Once again, Forbidden Worlds Film Festival.
Yeah. Who currently owns the name King Kong?
Oh, I don't know.
I wonder, it must be, where are we at with films falling out of copyright? It must be right on the cusp of going out of copyright, mustn't it?
Well, what went out this year? Steamboat Willie.
Steamboat Willie.
So is that 30, late 20s,
late 20s,
late 20s. I think is it 29?
Yes.
Kong is 33.
28.
28.
And so, all right, so
about 5 years out.
5 years. Look forward to King Kong everything.
Yeah, King Kong, blood and
King Kong, horny gorilla.
Yes, blood and horny.
This is a 50-foot woman. This is about how far we're back.
Yeah, sorry, we are as ever
a
a long way behind on the questions as we just ramble on here. And all of your comments, and we do appreciate all of your comments, and we scan through as many of them as we can, but there's a lot.
AC611 just paid off my car, so I'll rejoin Patreon soon.
Hey.
Jeffrey Ho. I've actually got another Jeffrey Ho film for you to review. Godfrey Ho, sorry.
Good. I say that I absolutely love doing the Godfrey Ho films, and they get some of the most piss poor views of anything we put out there. I don't know what's wrong with people. Nobody wants to see a Godfrey Ho review.
A reminder for us to watch Vincent Price's Confession of an Opium Eater.
Right. Okay.
So put that back on. That's just talking about Universal and King Kong. Commando is awesome. There's a lot of just chat in the debate about King Kong. Love your work. We'd love to see you do a deep dive on Flesh and the Fiends or Salem's Lots.
I mean, we have reviewed Flesh and the Fiends for streaming.
Yes, so that's done. And Salem's Lot, the miniseries, which is again what I talked about. I think there's something in anthology TV series at some point whenever we have time.
Time is the limiting factor on all of this.
Reading the Making of Fury Road book, Blood, Sweat and Chrome, they spent £2 million just on petrol. Mental.
Wow.
Manchester Morgue is great. There's a lot of comments basically. Any modern horror comedy you enjoyed?
Modern horror comedy.
Have you seen Tucker and Dale versus Evil?
Yes, that's quite good.
That's a good modern horror.
Comedy. One Cut of the Dead. I really loved. Of course, loved.
Yes.
And Final Cut was fine too.
Yeah.
But you can't really replicate that.
It's such an interest that they One Cut of the Dead, because of how jarring that is to watch the first half hour of the film, and you've got to tell people just
stick with it.
Just stick with it. Can't tell you why.
Yeah, but
just stick with it.
Very true.
And I wonder if then the French version of it, Final Cut, by having who's the actor in it?
Oh,
sorry. That they've got a bigger name actor in it, which I think would help sell the film more.
Yeah.
And it's done with a little bit more polish, because One Cut of the Dead was kind of like almost like a student project or something, wasn't it? It wasn't.
Was it?
It was like they worked on this film. It wasn't like a studio film or anything. So it was like.
Sorry, I'm still stuck on that damn actor's name.
I did enjoy him in both the Three Musketeers films.
Yeah, he's very good. I've loved him since I saw him in Molière. I love that film.
Cool. You can figure that.
I'm not gonna remember it now. Just gone.
There's From Beyond the Grave has a cool framing story. That's where that was. Don't Stop My Friend, He's Dead. Hunting Commando, yes. Kofi, Pam Grier, we've reviewed. Coffee. Yeah.
You're thinking of the former head of the UN.
Yes. You should have his own blaxploitation.
Yeah.
This is like so softly spoken as well.
No one would suspect.
It's not the action film that we all hoped. There's been a few comments about Michael Ripper.
Oh, good.
Is there anything else you want to talk about that? Why find questions
About Michael Ripper?
Yes.
I don't have a huge amount. I think I said it all about Michael Ripper. There's a lot of other stuff that he did that it would, I suppose, be interesting to talk about, but there weren't a huge number. He was in a couple of, obviously, we've just reviewed an Amicus film he was in, so he was in other horror films, but not really as much. He was a jobbing actor generally. Until I sort of started looking at his CV on IMDb, you don't realize how many little TV roles he did. He was in the very good adaptation of Jeeves and Wooster that Fry and Laurie were in. An extraordinary number of cab drivers as well, maybe even more cab drivers than barmen on TV. Just anything that you could have, just a Cockney character, then he was the go-to, and I think he just liked working.
Netflix gives you a 10-part series to adapt one of your books. Which one
That
do
would
you
be
go
nice.
with?
I'd start at the start.
Okay. How do we order the horror quiz book? It will be available on the Amazons later this month. And the link to the exclusive review will be in the book.
Towards the end. You've got to complete all of the quizzes.
What movie do you want to unsee?
Do I want to unsee?
And you can take this in two ways. So there's unsee it, where you just want to wipe it completely from your memory, so you never have to think about it.
Right.
Or so you can watch it again with fresh eyes and enjoy that reveal.
Oh, right. Okay. I'd love to. I think I'd love to. Oh. No, see, I'm going back and forth. Probably for the second one, for the good one, as it were. Then either, I suppose, Star Wars, the first one, or the first Indiana Jones film. I wonder if, and I'm thinking maybe the first Indiana Jones film, because Star Wars, I think I bring I wouldn't want to see it for the first time as an adult.
And
I think I'd rather see it for the first time
you
as a
can only
child.
wipe Star Wars from your memory, so you would have seen all the others that you watched.
Right then. Wow, all these others make sense. To erase from my mind, probably, still going to stick with Star Wars and what was the Force Awakens?
Okay.
Because I've wiped it from existing, but I can still remember it.
I think one of the films that just gave me that, oh my God, I can't believe it's gone there moments was Old Boy. And when I rewatched it, it didn't have that effect.
Right.
So something like Old Boy, I think, would be
okay.
Like going into that, not knowing anything about it, many moons back. But I think now it's perhaps a bit more well known. But so yeah,
which would you want to eradicate?
Eradicate from my mind completely, that it never existed. I don't know. I think even
the thing is, I mean,
even bad films, like there's something to say about them, so I don't want to.
You'd only watch it again.
And if it was that bad, I've forgotten about it already. It's been genetically wiped out my mind.
If there's one that's like giving you nightmares since you were a child, which you can't go back to, or something like that. There's plenty I'd like the time back, but I'm not too worried about the brain space.
Yeah, give me the time back on some of these films.
If you can give me the time back, then Peter Jackson's King Kong.
Well, that's good. But the extended
I'd get
version,
3 hours.
The extended version, you get even more time back. Right.
Excuse me. Apologies, I have been up for quite a long time by this point.
Oh yeah, it's gone midnight. Okay. They cloned Tyrone. Did you watch that on Netflix?
No, I missed that. I think it was sort of on my watch list, and I mean, is it still on Netflix? I don't know.
It probably is.
Probably. I don't pay to watch things.
The Henson documentary film was Sappy Hero Worship, which I kind of suspected it would be. I've only just started the beginning of it, and I've got I've got biography of him around as well. But I also understand he certainly wasn't faithful.
No,
to his wife, and I kind of want that in my documentaries. I'd like to know a little bit of the darkness in in people as well. Thoughts on The Crow?
I mean, I'm assuming we're talking about the original,
Yes.
which I really enjoyed. I mean, it's not the most strong piece of plotting ever, but it's a beautiful looking film. And I remember, it's a long time since I watched it, but
Yeah, so
and it's and it really is I think we had this something of this conversation, that it's that charismatic, that central performance by Brandon Lee really does hold it. It's a very charismatic performance.
When I was in Seattle recently, I went to Brandon Lee and Bruce Lee's grave, which was
the trailer for the new one, incidentally, looks. I could not believe how bad it looks. It's very hard to believe the film can be as bad as the trailer.
My friend recently he bought the new release of The Crow, 4K release, and he watched it and he said it didn't hold up. And I wonder if it's like it was like one of the first sort of this dark action film, and then you throw in the weight of the tragedy that happened on the film as giving it a bigger legacy than perhaps the film deserves.
Maybe
kind of the impression I got from him, but I've not watched it.
That's one person's impression.
So it's one person's opinion.
I still think the trailer for the new one looks absolutely beyond shit.
Do you ever talk about horror in cartoon shorts?
Horror in cartoon shorts?
Yes.
No, I don't think we have ever talked about that.
No, I can't even think of horror cartoon shorts other than what's the Mickey Mouse one? Nightmare Mouse or something?
Yeah.
That's just like super weird. Comments. So I should give you a question and then build up a bunch of new questions.
That would be the better way of doing this. But the problem is sometimes we both have stuff to say.
There's lots of comments.
It's an interesting conversation. Please feel free to read it.
There's great conversations going on in the chat, and I'm just trying to skim through.
I think people come for that more than they do listening to us.
And basically, when I'm scrolling through, I'm just looking for question marks, and some people might ask questions but not put a question mark, so I'll scroll past.
Well,
like put a bunch of
questions. If you haven't got your grammar right, then
if you've got a question, put a bunch of question marks after it, and I'll see it.
There's a question mark there.
Yes. As a genre geek, did you guys visit Ain't It Cool back in the day or listen to the recent Expose podcast?
I never did.
I definitely did, especially around sort of the Phantom Menace thing, which is in the Phantom Menace documentary video that we did. Like there's like a little section about Ain't It Cool news and what a difference that made to films. That he specifically Titanic, that was supposed to be a summer release. And then it just got way over budget. It got kicked back to Christmas, and it was sort of very much going, "Oh, this is going to be like this huge flop." He managed to get reviews from test screenings, where people actually go, "This is good," and that, according at least in part, very much promoted the film. Where conversely, the test screenings for Batman and Robin was so dire, and they got those leaks, and that really tanked Batman and Robin because of the power of those reviews.
I don't think Batman and Robin was going to be.
No, but it just sort of meant that you just didn't. I think reviews. He was like the first sort of online reviewer.
Yeah.
And here's someone who, he's like us kind of thing. And so people really sort of listened to it, and it did have that big effect on it, especially in international markets where we didn't have as we do now, which is the same day and date release.
Yeah.
Like you take Phantom Menace. Phantom Menace was released in May in America, and it wasn't released till July in the UK, which you would never do now with a film like that. So, so it's very interesting. And if there's a podcast about it, I'll probably check it out. But I definitely did check it out a lot back in the day. I listen to your reviews every day at work. You provide so much needed distraction. I don't know what your job is, Connie, but I know
Air traffic controller.
I know she does, because she'll comment on like quite old videos occasionally and go, "Oh, well done. You've gone back into the archives for that one." So yes, please keep your job. Are you logged into IMDb, and how long is your watch list?
No. So
and 0. Can you stretch that answer out? I didn't know.
I keep meaning to join it, because I think I always thought you had to pay, but that's just for like the pro membership. So I could join it, but I'm not sure it gets me anything.
I know what Mark's referring to. I just like scroll down a bit. I discovered Anna May Wong myself. Anna May Wong is her name.
Who's name?
Anna May Wong, not Anna May Wrong.
Oh right, sorry. I thought you. I don't know what that pertains to.
You know Anna May.
I know who Anna May Wong is.
Yeah, I don't know what the comment pertains to.
That's what I mean.
But I met somebody at the Screenwriters Festival who had written a screenplay based around Anna May Wong.
Oh, right.
Which I think would be quite an interesting thing. And we talked about...
Well, she's probably up for sort of being reclaimed. She's one of these people from the silent era, and there's a few of them, who is extremely iconic on the basis of more so now than she was then, on the basis of very few films, and that she's a sort of almost a soul pioneer.
Yeah.
And the film that she's best known for is not one she did in Hollywood. It's Piccadilly, which was made here in the UK.
And then you've got the other silent actress who was in Cleopatra. You probably also deserve something.
Theda Bara?
Yep.
Different situation, obviously, with Anna May Wong. It's a race thing.
Yeah.
That in Hollywood, she could only get a certain type of role. And the sort of exotics and scarlet women stealing men away with her oriental wiles. It's a pernicious, and it's interesting. There was a piece in Sight and Sound about it recently.
On me.
There was a piece in Sight and Sound about it recently, and Lucy Liu has said that it's still a problem, that she, for a very long time, that was all she got offered.
Yes.
Is these sort of mystic women of the East with some sort of strange arcane knowledge.
Oh, it just jumped on, blah, blah, blah. Something about Handshot First.
At the bottom of this, there's stuff with like 4 question marks after it.
Captain Chi meets Kojak as a book idea, question mark.
Captain Chi meets...
No.
I don't know what any of those words mean.
Oh, well done, Wheelhouse. I just upgraded my Patreon membership to the Acolyte level. You should think of doing similar. The investment these guys. I kid you not, like you joined the Acolyte level, you got a chunk of quality content. Actually, even at the Initiates.
Yeah, and there's a lot to catch up on. It's daunting, really. I shouldn't bother.
Yeah, there's way too much content there. That's exclusively there. Enjoy your content, lads. Any more plans for long-term videos? Which we haven't discussed. So the next video coming up is
the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari special,
which hopefully, but probably not, will be out later this month. I've got a very busy month and we've not even recorded it yet, but maybe.
We're recording it tomorrow.
Then we're doing
top 10 Conrad Veidt horror films.
Then we're doing something else maybe, and then we're doing
Universal Frankenstein revisited,
and then we're doing
top 10 Boris Karloff horror films.
There we go. So that's,
and then we might take
more or less
some time off.
What's planned for the end of the year. And then I'm also hopefully in that sort of December, maybe January time, doing re-releases of our Dracula and Frankenstein reviews, but remastered in full HD.
Okay, if you want to do that.
So they're getting remastered. But just there might be some slight edits just because we had some age restriction things on there, but they're also going to be compiled into one video rather than parts 1 and part 2. So,
Okay.
but it might also be worth having a rewatch of them just to see if there's anything you want to add or change.
Okay.
So that's basically what we got coming up this year.
Someone's pleased with Caligari.
The Mummy retrospective was very good.
Thank you.
Some Dissing of Piranha 2, which James Cameron directed. Going back to Titanic.
Not a Roger Corman one.
Can't wait to find out if Black Sabbath makes the Karloff list.
Yeah, that was. We've reviewed that for streaming, haven't we? Yeah, that's a good film.
Yeah.
I think that Karloff's great in that. That's definitely a candidate. The thing with the Karloff, what we have to sort of like, we've got these 2 top 10s coming out, the Conrad Veidt one and the Boris Karloff one. The Conrad Veidt one, we have very little choice because an awful lot of his films, the silent ones, are lost. So it's going to be what it's going to be. The Karloff one, we have the opposite problem. There are so many. It's going to be a lot of work trying to whittle that down. But hopefully that will attract lots of comments from people telling me I'm wrong.
Do you know what are some of the films that might appear in Conrad Veidt's top 10?
The Hands of Orlak.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure that will. I'm humming and hawing on whether or not Thief of Baghdad can be included. I can't really call that a horror film. There's a few that are sort of like in the sort of the 1930s period when he's America and Britain and sort of in that area. I'm sort of like going back and forth on whether or not to include some of those.
It's Dr. Jekyll one's lost, isn't it?
Yeah, that'll be there will be one slot on the list will be allotted to lost films, including Deanna Scott. I'd like to mention at least, which is definitely not a horror film, and I'm going to blank on the name again, but it's not The Lives of Others. That's the very good job, but it's something like that, which is one of the earliest explicitly gay films.
Okay.
And that's just worth mentioning. Another lost one. What else? I'm trying to. The Student of Prague, that I'm sure will be on the list. That's a favourite film. This is the 1927 one, which is a remake of the earlier Paul Wegener one. Man Who Laughs, I suppose, will be on the list, even though I'm always cagey about calling it horror. Last Performance.
There's a bit of the body horror to it, and it's horror in
as there is with Hands of Orlak. So there's a lot. There's enough there for a top 10, that's for sure. But I think
not a top 11.
Maybe not. I think I do actually think the lost films are going to be the bit where it's going to be the most interesting part of the video, and we'll just see what bits we can find, because Saturnus, of course, is another lost one.
Yeah.
Which connects to Caligari via its writer, which is Robert Wiener, who's the director of Caligari. So there's all these people working together. It's an interesting time.
So so that's kind of what we got planned going into the rest of the year.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll get most of it done. Hopefully we'll get all of it done.
Yeah, and maybe more so.
There is certainly a gap between Veidt and Frankenstein.
Any chance you're fans of 2000 AD?
I used to read Judge Dredd. No more than that.
Did you?
Occasionally Rogue Trooper.
Now that you brought up body horror, a Cronenberg retrospective would be pretty epic.
Yes.
It would be. You're right.
I mean, Cronenberg's not done yet, so you can't. I'm not going to do a retrospective of the man's career while he's still making films.
There is like an onslaught of Cronenbergs now, though.
Yeah.
There's like, because his son, and then there was another.
Is there another Cronenberg?
There's another Cronenberg who's doing something. As I said to my friend, thinking it was Brandon Cronenberg, and then my friend goes, "How many Cronenbergs are there?" I went, "Oh well." You realize it was a different one.
It is interesting how Brandon Cronenberg has fallen so close to the tree, as it were, that it is like picked up the legacy.
Enjoying his films.
Yeah, I think everyone is.
So
I can't remember what the most recent one was called, but Possessor was before that. Was very
Possessor,
good.
And then there was one he did with Mia Goth.
Yeah,
Infinity Pool.
Yes, that's it.
which I really enjoyed. And like Mia Goth in that, like there's like a scene there. She's like, David. It's just like just so evil. Very much looking forward to Maxine as well with Mia Goth later this year.
Right.
Hopefully not too far. I don't know when it's getting released, but that should be out fairly soon. Okay, we're gonna cut this off in 6 minutes.
6 minutes.
6 minutes. So
That's half midnight.
Get your questions in. Did either of you guys subscribe to Empire back in the day? I certainly did. Yes.
No
that
longer.
Was the film magazine.
Yeah, it really went downhill. Or maybe I got older.
Yeah,
one or the other.
I remember when they reviewed The Phantom Menace, I think they gave it 5 stars.
They did.
And then when they reviewed Attack of the Clones, they were like, look, we fucked up last time, but trust us, this film, if we gave Phantom Menace 5 stars, this film deserves like 20. Which
is probably true. But
I think Attack of the Clones is worse than Phantom Menace.
I actually prefer Attack of the Clones.
No, there's not. Well, if there's not much in it. But I think Empire Magazine relies so much on having that relationship with the studios for their exclusives and the interviews and everything else you got from it. They could never be super critical.
They could never be honest.
Like if you wanted that, you went to Sight and Sound.
Yeah.
If you wanted like a more critical thing. But by and large, and we say this for people who disagree with your reviews, go find the film critic that likes the sort of films that you like and listen to their opinion. If you don't like your opinion or Mark Kermode's opinion, that's not the critic for you. Just find the critic that works for you and then follow their thing. Like people are going to have disagreements. Like you and I disagree on a lot of films.
Yeah. Well, there's not going to be a critic you agree with on everything. In the end, what I think you want from a critic is someone who speaks their mind and has some sort of context in which to put the film and an intelligent take on it. I'd rather have a critic who's honest that I disagree with than one who just fawns over everything.
Have you discussed the TV series Penny Dreadful before? No. Evelyn Ankers ? I don't know what your question is.
I would imagine. Are we good? I mean, we have. I think that Evelyn Ankers will probably be on the list as similar to Michael Ripper,
right?
As someone who might get their own top 10. Evelyn Ankers was opposite Cheney in The Wolfman and a bunch of other horror films. She's Universal Horror's most prolific actress, and I definitely think we will. Yeah. I'm sure we'll do something on her at some point.
Dare you take on the review of Frankenstein v Dracula? To you, I say, which one? Because there are about 3 films with that title, and I think we've done two of them. So we've done the Forrest J. Ackerman. Is it Forrest J. Ackerman's in it?
Is in it. It's Al Adamson.
Al Adamson. We did that, but you have to go back to our old channel to find that. And then we've done the Paul Naschy one as well, which also goes by the title Assignment Terror.
Yeah.
But probably
has Michael Rennie in it.
But probably both of those are worthy of a relook at.
Yeah. We didn't. I don't think we even mentioned Paul Naschy in the Paul Naschy one because we didn't know who he was at that point.
And also the print we have of that is ropey as, and I've certainly got a better print of that now.
I think the third one has Dennis Price in it.
Yeah. What about a top 10 standalone Universal horror films?
I mean, you can, but
why?
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
I mean, the only reason to do it, and this actually, now I'm saying it, this isn't such a bad reason to do it, would be to introduce people to films they haven't heard of. Because I think when you think of Universal horror, you have the franchises. Actually, you just have the franchises if you count the Poe films as like a little franchise, as it were. I can't think of any standalone Universal horrors apart from the Phantom of the Opera.
Although we did talk about doing just the Universal Poe films as a,
and I'm sure that I do think we should do.
Yeah.
Because I still think Black Cat is one of their absolute best.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's almost no plot, but I always come back to the byplay between Karloff and Lugosi is superb. That's what Gothic horror is, I think.
Yeah.
Even the phone is dead.
Yes. And on that note, we're going to call it a night because it's midnight here. I'm sorry if we didn't get to your question.
Yeah.
But we'll try and do another one of these in
At some
about
point.
6 weeks' time, I guess. Probably the next time we shoot.
Mid-July,
something like that.
But yeah,
and now all the questions come rolling in.
At this point.
So yes, so thank you very much to everyone for your support. This is always like enjoyable for us.
It's great fun.
Have a nice
I'm always slightly baffled that people show up for them. So yeah, middle-aged men rambling, but
2 middle-aged white men rambling about movies. You can't find it anywhere else on the internet.
It's a unique concept.
It's a unique concept. So all have a very good night, and we will see you soon.
Cheers.
Cheers.